Let's pick up on the point Danny made there about the impact it will have on many of the victims, the ability to properly grieve as well. Let me speak to Karlet Manning, who is a grief and loss coach, and also you are also a funeral director yourself, Karlet. Thank you for giving us some of your time. Can you put into words what that grief process will be like for some of these people who have found out they've either not had the correct ashes or their remains of their loved ones have indeed been found in the directors?
And thank you for allowing me to be on the show today. And my deepest sympathy goes out to the families and the community and everyone that has been involved. And I just believe that right now for the families, it's going to be traumatic grief. And this grief is going to be a type of grief where each individual will grieve differently. And the grief will last quite a long time because, again, they feel like they've not had the funeral, they've not had the service. And within that, they're going to also feel like they have not been able to honor their loved ones, whether that's children, adults, grandparents, fathers, mothers. So again, each individual, depending on, who they've lost, they're going to grieve differently. They're going to need time to grieve. They're going to need the right spaces to grieve, because this is not just a normal grief like we've just lost a grandparent. This is also trauma, betrayal of services that you most trust at a time when you're grieving and when you've lost a loved one. So again, the time that these families and the community are going to need to grieve is just going to be space just to be heard, and nothing what any of them say is wrong, is all valid, and we just need to open that space for them and allow them to talk. Within this country.
Carla, can I ask you as well, because you make some really kind of great points there in terms of that grieving process, and for a lot of people it's closure that you get at the time of a funeral, a cremation or a burial. This idea of trust has come up. It's a word I've heard many of the victims use as well. Just trust in terms of the sector as a whole, perhaps with your funeral director hat on as well. What's the impact of this case?
I think the impact of this case, we understand. I think most funeral directors are very passionate and sympathetic about the families that we work with. And we really always want to try and support the family, because we see at funerals, you only get one chance to do a funeral. And this is what I say to many families, and this is what I stand my trust on, is that I want to do the best for that person, that family, because you only get to do it once. But with these families, that has been taken away from them. For them to have that last, the funeral, the ritual that helps them to go on to grieve. So the complexity that they're going to have, that none of them have had a funeral. And even if they do try and do something like a memorial, they're still going to have that internal feel of betrayal, trust. They might feel that they've not done their loved one right. And these things can carry on and go into deeper mental health issues. So not just grief, it can lead on to things like depression, anxiety, extreme anxiety. It can lead on to eating problems, sleeping problems, and go on to deeper mental health issues if it's not addressed correctly and they're not given the right space to grieve. And like we say, a lot of times people don't know how to address grief. But this is going to be a complex grief. So again, it's making sure they have the right professionals, the right space, the right support, when they need that, because grief comes and goes. One minute you can feel you're okay, and then something happens, you smell something, you hear something, the news comes on. For example,
Absolutely.
you might...
And Carla, I think so many people listening as well who will have gone through any kind of grieving process will be able to relate to some of what you're saying. I appreciate you